Call order the Town of St. John Plan Commission regular meeting for March 20th, 2024. We'll start off with pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a roll.
Pete Kildaris,
Present.
Angela Mendez,
Present.
Joe Gomestagel,
Present.
Justin Nestor,
Present.
John Gill is here, Bob Beloy,
Here.
Town Manager Bill Manasopoulos, here. Town Engineer John Dykstra,
Here.
Town Attorney Adam Decker.
Present.
First item on the agenda, minutes for the February 21st, 2024 Plan Commission regular meeting. Assume everybody's had the chance to review those. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve February 21st, 2024 Plan Commission regular meeting minutes.
Motion by Mr. Valois, is there a second?
Second. You can give it to Joe.
Joe. Second by Mr. Gomestagel. Put it to vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Item 5, public hearings. The first 2024-05 Continental Unit 1, lots 12 through 14. This is the proposed preliminary replat and request for final plat for lots 12 through 14 of Continental Unit 1, part of the original 55 acres of Continental zoned RC1 PUD. Schilling Development.
Jack Slager with Schilling Development. We're here tonight to request primary and final plat approval for the re-subdivision of 3 lots into 2. So each lot will essentially become a lot and a half. We were at the last study session, we discussed it, and we advertised for the public hearing tonight. So I guess if you have any questions or public comment.
Okay. Any questions, concerns from the commission? No? Go ahead and open it for public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to come up and speak in favor or against the proposed replat? Going once. Second call for any public comment. Third call for any public comment. And with that, public comment is closed. At this point, any other questions, concerns from the commission? Chair would entertain a motion.
Should we make a motion for both or just preliminary first?
I would recommend 2 separate motions, one for preliminary, one for final.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept preliminary plat.
I second that.
There's a motion with a second. Put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a
I would like to
motion
make a
for-
motion to approve final plat.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mendez. Put it to a vote. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. I guess just for the record, public hearing is closed for item A, 2024-05, Continental Unit 1, lots 12 through 14. Item B, 2024-06, Franciscan Alliance, proposed preliminary plat of Franciscan Health St. Medical Center located on the east side of US Highway 41, approximately 975 feet south of the intersection of 101st Place and US Highway 41, zoned C2. You're up.
1 minute.
okay with what we talked about on Monday? Check on that first.
I have discussed briefly with the Plan Commission president our conversation, so.
We're here tonight for the consideration of a primary plat for the project that's located just south of Alsip Nursery on River Avenue, US 41, and that we obtained zoning for a month or two ago. Typically, and we require a pre-application hearing.
Hey, Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you turn that microphone on, please?
Oh, is it not on?
It's on the back side, on the lower. I get it. Yep.
Oh, there it is. I mean,
Now it's on. Now it's off.
now it's off. Now it's on. Okay. Sorry about that. That didn't occur. The whys and the wherefores, I think, have a lot to do with the nature of the project and the confusion over the zoning and the change of administration and things of that nature. It just didn't take place. So it took place last Friday, and there were a number of issues discussed relative to appropriately regarding items that need to be considered in terms of compliance with the subdivision control ordinance and the standards of the subdivision control ordinance. A lot of those things were discussed. Some of them were okay. Some I know that John had issues and questions about, and I think also some others from the town did. I know there's an issue that was the first time I'd heard about it, was about the water line and the possibility of needing an additional 15 feet of easement, which I think are resolvable. Don't get me wrong. I think those can be resolved and taken care of. The question came as to whether or not, and it was my belief that we still could proceed with the public hearing. It doesn't mean that we can't get a lot of these things ironed out and discussed this evening and either come to a consensus and maybe pass something contingent upon something, or say, hey, we need to address this even further, and we're going to have to do it next month after we define all of the issues. So that's kind of what we're here about tonight. They're primarily engineering issues and utility issues that aren't exactly in my bailiwick, but I know enough to be dangerous, and I think we have some of our folks on the line that can help and aid in that regard, and I think it'll be good for the public to hear what this is all about. So the preliminary question Adam and I had when we called is, hey, I believe that we're in a situation where we can proceed with the public hearing. Obviously, I'll let Adam, and he's obviously already talked to the chairman, and I'll let you all determine that yourselves. I think we're okay in that regard. I just don't know that we're far enough along that you'd be in a position to make an ultimate final determination one way or the other. But I think it would be good that we proceed and let the public hear and let you all hear where we're at, and then kind of go from there. So that's sort of where we're at.
I guess the question is, knowing that you don't have the necessary things in place to get final approval, is it wise to proceed with the hearing at this point, not knowing if you can clear that hurdle? I wouldn't want this, commission to come out with a decision that's conditioned on certain things happening, and then you can't get it done, right? And I know that there was some concerns throughout the panel, and I do apologize because you were here for the study session last time, and we weren't able to go forward. And I think a lot of that might have been better addressed at a study session, make sure that we were able to get some of those things done. So I don't know if it makes the most sense to have the hearing today or come back for the next study session, and then I think we could advertise for the hearing at the meeting after that, correct?
Well, so in short, yes, that's one option. The Plan Commission can always require a public hearing for any purpose. If that were to be done, if the hearing were not held tonight, then the applicant would be required to re-advertise and send notices. Perhaps an alternative would be to allow the public hearing to be open tonight, but simply not close it, and allow additional public comment and hold the hearing open to next month's meeting if anyone wants to offer comment at that time. And if all of the required, technical information that John will need to review has been submitted by that time, then it might be appropriate for, ultimate consideration by the Plan Commission at next month's meeting. But for purposes of the hearing, you have that option of either opening the hearing tonight and perhaps holding it open, or not having the hearing tonight and requiring the applicant to re-advertise for next month.
You want to take the chance on 2 bites at the apple? That's up to you.
Always like to take that extra bite at the apple. That's what Adam and I had talked about. I think it makes sense to open it to the public because it's properly advertised and it's properly noticed. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps all of the questions can't be resolved tonight, but it certainly opens the door, and then just leave the meeting open to the public if a final decision can't be made tonight to next month. And so they would lose no rights at all. They would have the right to come back here and speak again if there are members of the public that would like to do that. And hopefully we'd have by then all of the technical information that John would be able to review and provide a report. So yeah, we're certainly prepared to do that this evening.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I would also add, there is a provision in state law that technically requires the Plan Commission to at least open the hearing within a time certain of the filing of the application. And so I think that would be another valid reason to open the hearing tonight, because the application has been filed, it has been advertised, and in order for the Plan Commission to meet those legal requirements for holding the hearing, I think it would be appropriate to do that.
Okay. All right. That will open the public hearing on 2024-06 Franciscan Alliance proposed preliminary plat. At this point, I will invite any members of the public to
thank you.
come forward if they'd like to speak for or against the proposal. That's the first call for any public comment. Is there a second call? Anybody like to come forward? And I'll make a third and final call for any public comment.
I would like to make a motion to defer and to keep the public hearing open until next month's meeting.
Motion by Mr. Voy to defer closing the hearing at this point. Is there a second?
Keeping the public hearing open
Yeah.
until next month's meeting.
Keeping it open?
Yeah.
Yes.
I second that.
Second by Mr. Gomes. I'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. And with that, well, public hearing is not closed, but that's the final action that we'll be taking on that for tonight. Item C, zoning ordinance amendment. Consider repealing a portion of St. John Municipal Code 24-42, a portion of Ordinance 1483. Specifically, all land shall be annexed to the town with an R1 residential single-family zoning designation unless the town council unanimously assigns the annexed land to a different zoning district at the time of annexation. Mr. Decker?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So at last month's town council meeting, the town council voted to initiate this proposal, and under Indiana law, any proposal to amend the text of the zoning ordinance must go to the Plan Commission for its consideration. And the specific text amendment that's proposed has been set forth, or is set forth in the agenda. It was also included in the notices that were advertised for tonight's public hearing. So there, on the agenda, there's the item for the public hearing, and then the Plan Commission will essentially make a recommendation regarding this proposal to the town council. The recommendation itself would be to make a favorable recommendation for the proposed change, an unfavorable recommendation for the proposed change, or no recommendation. So the Plan Commission ultimately has three options at the conclusion of the hearing.
Any questions or comments from the commission? And then I presume we need to open that up for public comment as well.
Yes, this is a public hearing, so we would need to open it up for the public.
With that, open the public comment hearing portion for item C, the zoning ordinance amendment. Anyway, members of the public who would like to come forward? Second call for any members of the public who would like to come forward. Third call, final call. With that, public comment is closed. Any other questions, concerns, issues? If not, I would entertain a motion. Options being a favorable recommendation from this commission to the town council, an unfavorable recommendation, or no recommendation. Any of those three would be appropriate to style as a motion.
I will make a favorable recommendation.
Motion for a favorable recommendation from Mr. Valoy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mendez. Put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. And with that, public hearing on item C is closed at this point as well. That will also conclude the public hearings that are on the agenda for today. Next, item 6, old and new business. Item A is 2024-02 Suncrest Christian Church. I believe that Mr. Vis is still,
I'm sorry, yeah, he had phoned earlier and asked if we could switch him.
okay, so we'll
to item,
skip the item B for now and then revisit that, subject to him coming. So item B, 2024-07 The Grove, proposed rezone to PUD for proposed mixed-use development of single-family and multifamily homes at 8408 West 101st Avenue, St. John, Indiana. Olthoff.
All right, good evening. Kevin Pasco of Olthoff Homes, 8051 Wicker Avenue, St. John, Indiana. I'm here tonight for our first PUD rezone meeting for The Grove, our newest residential development project. I was last at the February 7th study session to introduce the project and run through all the characteristics that we plan to have, as well as laying out how the project fits within the comprehensive plan, future growth goals, and ultimately the findings of facts that are required at this stage and the primary plat. Since we only received 2 comments at that first study session, we decided after consultation with Jenna that we would file for the next step in the approval process, which was for the PUD rezone for all the 5 parcels. So we got to work right away and compiled all the documentation by March 1st and then submitted that on March 6th, or ahead of the March 6th meeting. So obviously that meeting didn't take place, unfortunately. So here we are. So among those materials were overall and landscape concept plans, preliminary engineering and landscape plans, as well as our PUD development plan, which lays out the specifics of what we're going to do with the project. We also had a few meetings with Bill to go over some staff and commission comments on our original concept plan. So we took those comments back and met them as best we could, and I'll go ahead and detail the comments of that shortly. So I'll go ahead and give a brief summary. If you go to the previous slide, please. So again, the site's 5 parcels totaling approximately 169 acres, which are currently used as farmland. So geographically, it's south of 93rd Avenue and Walden Clearing, east of the Renaissance subdivision, north of 101st and the Gates of St. John, and then west of Blaine Street and Grouse Point. I'll reiterate again that there's a very small single parcel right at the intersection of Park Place and 101st, which we do not currently own. So while it might be tough to see on some of the images, we do not have that as part of the project at this time. Next slide. So the parcels, which are outlined in blue on here, are currently zoned OS, open space, again, due to them being used for agricultural purposes, as well as are the adjacent parcels, which are also still farmland. And then surrounding the remainder of the parcels are P public building, and then R1, R2, and R2 PUD, single-family residential. Next slide. So according to the comprehensive plan, this eastern area of the town was projected to transition into residential use as growth continued to occur. So single-family almost entirely surrounds the parcel, so it's logical that this area would also transition from that open space or agricultural to residential. So along with those, the projected zoning and growth, and the comprehensive plan also has several goals which are mentioned. So increasing diversity of the existing housing stock, meeting the needs of an aging population, and also having a balance of options to reflect the demographics of the town. We believe that the project we're offering satisfies that criteria. Next slide. So expanding on and illustrating how we meet those goals with this project. Again, this is in a projected growth area of the town, especially for residential. So offering 3 types of single-family options in the form of traditional single-family homes, villa-style homes, and then paired cottages to offer the widest appeal for any residents, both economically and demographically, and then also providing an opportunity for a unique project. So I'll echo comments I made at the last meeting in that we really want to have development that could be generational in nature, potentially, with parents, kids, grandparents having the opportunity to all live in the same subdivision if they so choose. This is certainly an overwhelming trend that we've seen in many parts of Northwest Indiana, but we also think that the amount of acreage that we have to work with on these particular parcels also lends itself to a project that contains more than one product type. We also believe that having a diverse amount of housing products is a positive for the town as well, since it does allow for a larger pool of prospective residents to have a chance to move here, whether they're moving internally within the town or from surrounding areas. Next slide. So something I had failed to mention at the previous study session is the projected development schedule we have for the project. So on a high level, we're looking at having 5 phases of development with full build-out in approximately 8 to 10 years. We did submit a preliminary phasing plan with the materials, but I would point out that when each phase occurs and how many units are in a given phase are subject to change based on market conditions, which are obviously out of our hands and in the last couple of years have been quite unpredictable. But this is what we foresee at the time. So rezoning and primary plat approval over the next several months, with bidding and contracting occurring from this coming winter until the spring of 2025. And then we'll have roughly 1 phase every 2 years until the culmination of the project in 2033. Next slide. All right, so moving on to the changes and additional information since the last meeting. So as I mentioned, we only received 2 comments at our initial study session, one regarding the potential well site and then one regarding the walking trail. For the well site, I thought I'd go ahead and show the fracture trace analysis image that Tom Nagel from Robinson Engineering had sent us last August. Yellow dot is approximately where the site was staked 2 weeks ago and where the test well will be drilled. Bob had also requested that we send a letter to him giving the town permission to enter onto the land, so went ahead and sent out a letter to him the next day. He also did bring up the well site at the Waterworks Board meeting on February 21st. And unfortunately, we didn't attend that meeting, so we couldn't provide a whole lot of information at that time. You did give an update earlier this evening, so there's not a whole lot to report other than the fact that it has been staked. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to add, really.
I'm meeting the driller out there tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
So.
All right. Next slide, please. And then for the walking trail comment, we are able to commit to making the trail be an 8-foot paved walking path throughout the development, provided we're able to maintain the current unit count. So the route of the path was virtually unchanged with this new layout, although we did have to eliminate a connection when the northern detention area kind of merged into just become one large pond. So this reduced the approximate length of the trail from 1.5 miles to 1.3 miles. It still begins in that northeast corner and then snakes its way along the ditch line and then runs along 101st, and that utility easement ultimately stubbing out to the Lake Central parcels. And as mentioned before, it will be maintained by the HOA. Next slide. The only other noteworthy change that we've made since the last meeting, which is something Bill had also discussed with us, is that the town doesn't want any more parks to maintain, since there's already a significant number that the Parks Department has to contend with. So that's no problem for us. We can just make it owned and maintained by the HOA, which is standard operating procedure for us. So we've also eliminated that proposed Veterans Park that we had initially had also. So this area will not be fully planned out until we know the status of the well site. For now, we're just showing an open space area, which is the trail offshoot as a placeholder for the time being. If it does require a well site, we will have to provide a wellhead protection radius, which will limit what we're able to put in that area. And then if it does not require a well site, then we've got a decent amount of acreage to work with there. So we're not too worried about putting one or more amenities in that area. Next slide. And in terms of comments related to the layout, so they mainly pertain to the west and the north sides. So we went ahead and moved the paired cottage units that were in the northwest corner to the east side and then replaced that with a small detention area. We also reconfigured the northern detention pond to be one continuous pond that snakes its way along the wetland line. That allowed us to shift some of the units further west than before, and also to have only the 80-foot lots run along the west side. We managed to keep the unit count the same as the original plan and also kept the walking trail on its same path, as I mentioned. It was also brought up that the town may not want to maintain that stretch of road on the west side. Granted, that was the previous lot layout when that was just quite a long straightaway, so perhaps the town's position would have changed with this new layout. We would be willing to have the HOA cover the snow plowing for that street if the town stance is the same as it was before, but the road is shorter than the previous layout. So that's more of a kind of a minor comment, but I still did want to mention it. And then for the breakdown in the unit changes, so there's still 77 of the alternating 70-foot and 75-foot lots on the south side. There are now 15 of the 80-foot single-family lots on the east side, 90 of the villa lots on the kind of the central to northeast portion, and 69 of the paired cottage lots, or 138 units on the central to eastern portion. And the differences between the two plans are one more 80-foot lot, 3 more villa lots, and then 2 less paired cottage lots, or 4 less units. But again, we still have that same total unit count of 320 units with 1.9 dwelling units per acre, and the lot layout is still identical to that original plan. Next slide. So to conclude, we do feel strongly that we've met all of the requirements of the findings of fact and guidelines for the PUD rezone that we're seeking, based on the material submitted to staff and the commission, as well as what I've presented this evening. We do also continue to maintain that this area, as well as other areas, forthcoming residential development, should utilize residential TIF to assist in the provision of maintenance and financial assistance to the town as much as it can, as well as the school district for the duration of the TIF district's life, which will not only benefit residents of the town or those living within the TIF district, but for the area overall. So with that, we'd like to request a public hearing for April 17th so we can keep moving forward and capture any comments from the public. And with that, I'd be glad to take any comments or questions that you have, or to go through any documentation that we submitted.
Questions, comments?
I just have one. Could you pull that back up? So Kevin, I know we had met and we talked about that.
West side?
Yeah, the west side row of houses there, and I understand about that you'll plow it. Did you, I know you had mentioned that you were gonna do some kind of study to see if that detention can be moved there and those other streets extended. Was that something you had a chance to look into?
Are you talking about extending like more where the large detention
Where the large
areas?
detention is now, yeah.
So I think our stance would kind of just be, we'd prefer, if we're going to have any sort of a crossing over the ditch, that we don't like to do that one time instead of because are you suggesting multiple connections then?
I think he's referring to the detention itself. If you took those lots that butt up against Renaissance and moved your detention to the west
And extended.
and
the
extended,
streets
right.
Where the detention is now.
Right.
Is that something you looked into? I know you guys said you were gonna take a look at it. I know we're
Yeah.
just here for a rezone.
Right.
But,
I mean, that's certainly something we can try and revisit again. I mean, we're still open to some revisions at this stage, so.
okay.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that once more.
Mr. Chair, in reviewing our town ordinance, one of the required items that the developer must include in the PUD development plan, which will go hand in hand with this request to change the zoning to PUD, are the exterior elevations and renderings depicting the architectural style with a list of exterior materials in order to understand the intent of the proposed PUD. I don't know if that's been submitted, those architectural renderings.
I believe we did not include that in the submission materials.
Do you anticipate submitting that at some point?
Yes, we would.
Do you know when that will happen?
If it's a requirement that we do need right now, then we could definitely get moving on that.
Are you familiar with the requirements of the town ordinance?
Yes, we've reviewed that.
Is it premature to be asking for a hearing if I'm, next month?
Well, that's to apply for the rezone, right? What you just read off?
So I believe that's what the application
They go
is.
hand
So when we talk about planned unit development,
Right.
which is essentially a write-your-own zoning ordinance. So it's not a traditional change of the zone to a classification that we have in our zoning ordinance. And so it's unique, and typically and historically, we've required that all of those details be included in the planned unit development plan that's required to be submitted before the Plan Commission can really make any recommendation for the zone change to the town council. So that's my understanding, and so I submit that based on the ordinance, I think those architectural renderings, the exterior elevations, the architectural style, the building materials, all need to be included in the plan, which would be, basically part and parcel of the request for the change to PUD zoning.
So we're not there yet.
Based on what I've heard, I don't believe those have
Yeah.
been submitted, so.
Well, we can certainly work to include those in the next 2 weeks before the April study session. So that shouldn't be an issue by any means.
Okay. I just do want to note not for the record, but for the minutes here, we did receive some communication from a member of the public, Doug Blocker, 10591 Juniper Lane, who wanted his remonstration against this project read into the record. To the extent this is not an actual public hearing, I'm just making note that we do have this, so we're going to save that for any future public hearing when there will be action taken by this commission. So,
Mr. Chair, I would also add, there's a number of items that are included in the ordinance that I don't know if they've been addressed. For example, a lighting plan. I don't think that was included. Has that been submitted?
Well, some of those details we submitted several engineering sheets. Some of those smaller details might have been included on that, or the landscape plans also.
Might have been included?
Well, I'm just talking about.
Well, I think he might be referring to maybe a separate sheet that just had the lighting plan on it versus like one sheet that may have several aspects that are listed on it, is what I'm referring to.
Mr. Chair, I'm just reading from the ordinance, and one of the requirements that must be submitted, or items to be submitted, is a lighting plan with specific, definitions of easements, locations, size, height, type, intensity, luminance of proposed street lighting. I just don't know if that's been submitted. I'm just, it's a question I would just throw out. because those are requirements for planned unit development in the town ordinance.
I think we need some assurance that we have all of those
Yeah, we will go,
ducks in a row before I think, as a commission, we're comfortable with conducting a public hearing.
Understood.
At this point, I think it's just a little bit premature, so I think probably plan to see back at the study session. And
Here's
see-
the preliminary landscape plan that I found in our drive.
I know we do have one sheet, I believe that lists a layout of the streetlights, but I do not believe it goes into the amount of detail that Mr. Decker just laid out.
Mr. President, I think we should defer until we get this
Yeah.
language.
I think we're going to defer at this
Okay.
point on
Yep.
any further action, so why don't you make sure that you have everything you need within the ordinance? Yeah, I think we need a motion to defer the request for a public hearing, correct?
Okay,
I move to defer until we get all the facts, everything in order, and do your due diligence so things don't come up.
Yep.
And we don't have a rowdy bunch here.
Yep.
Okay?
understood, yep.
Motion by Mr. Gomsigle, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Floyd, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Okay, we'll see you back, thanks.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Then back to item A, 2024-02, Suncrest Christian Church, proposed rezone from R2 PUD to C2 Highway Commercial District of Suncrest Christian Church, property on 109th Avenue, approximately 290 feet east of Park Place and to US 231. Mr. Viss?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I am late, was double booked this evening, so trying to figure out how to be in two places at once. If I could approach, I do have a couple of copies just for reference. They might be on the screens as well, but I'm a paper guy.
That's why you were late, making copies?
Chloe made them for me this morning, so.
Thank you.
You got it right there. So yes, Nathan Viss here on behalf of Suncrest Church. For those of you not familiar with this project, this is located on 231 near the entryway to the gates of St. John. We've been before you previously in discussions on this project, and what my clients are looking to do is take approximately 4.86 acres out of the larger piece and move that from its existing zoning to a C2 zone. You can see that on the screen before you. In the packet that I've handed out, on the second page, you'll see a map of the existing pods that comprise the gates, and in particular the area that we were talking about here back in 2004 when this was annexed into the town of St. John. A variety of pods were established, and there was a certain zoning that was applied to each of them. Now, to the best that I can interpret, and I've stared at this section of the mapping, it appears that this approximate 4.86 acres is comprised slightly of Pod 17, Pod 3, and even a bit of Pod 7. And if we turn the page to the last page of the presentation, it outlines there Pod 3 is an R2 PUD designation, Pod 7 is an R2 PUD designation, and then Pod 17 is a B2-R4-PUD designation. And if I'm correct, Mr. Decker, I believe B2 is no longer in existence in our town code.
I'm sorry,
I believe B2 is no longer in existence in our town code. It's been supplanted by something else.
so under our schedule of uses,
By readdressed.
yeah.
I just shared that to say that the existing,
Yeah, there is no, to my knowledge, right, B2, I don't know if it existed in 2005 when the original PUD development plan was submitted, but currently in our zoning ordinance, there is no B2, it's a C2 highway commercial district, I think is what
correct.
would be the equivalent of that today.
So with all that said, then, the last item to reference before we move forward is this particular area is also located, as of the last 5 years, in the Highway 231 overlay district, which has the emphasis for C2 and other types of commercial development. So what we're seeking this evening is your permission request that we can place ourselves on the public agenda at the end of April, that meeting on the public agenda, so that we can seek a rezone from those existing zones or codes that we just referenced, or pods, and reshape this 4.86 acres over to a C2 designation, and that's our request.
Questions, comments?
No.
Okay.
The other request I would have, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with the board, I know we're treating this evening as a study session. I believe I and my client will be gone the first week of April when your next study session is. If you are in favor of moving this forward, if it'd be okay to forego that, and then the next time we would see you would be at the April public meeting for this matter.
Any issues? No? Okay. See you in April.
All right, very good. We'll work with the town. Just of note, the existing record tonight said 2.5 acres. It's actually 4.86, so I'll make sure we work with staff to have the legal description, and we're on the same page with that. So.
Okay.
So you'll be preparing the required legal notices to be published and to be sent to property owners?
I got an updated list from Dan at County last week. Chloe's got the certifieds ready to go. I'll work with staff to work on the insert, and we'll get them ready to rock and roll for everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for old and new business. Item 7, public comment. Anybody'd like to come forward? No one racing up to the front. Give it a second call. With that, item 8 is adjournment. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mendez, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Have a good night.
Okay. Well, that was kind of fast. Not so bad.